Hello, JB. How are you?
Hey Caleb, how you doing? Let me get my video going.
Ah, cool.
Oh, I can't do my video because the host has stopped it.
I'm curious because the audio's. Oh, wait, that's why. I started the live stream on YouTube, so everything was a little bit delayed.
I got you.
I heard my voice and I was like, okay, what's going on? I'm curious on how I can allow you to use video.
And if not, that's okay.
All right.
Well, thanks for letting me be a part of this.
Of course, thank you for participating. I'm super happy you're able to get on this Q&A. So I have a few questions prepared that I'll be asking. I'm just waiting for it to be time, and
Sure.
then I'll start asking them, because kind of what I wanted to do with this program is make it where it fits around your schedule, because I wasn't really expecting anybody to be committing the 12 to 15-hour days that you normally see at a startup weekend. So we spread it out over 4 days, and we record all of our sessions, put it on YouTube so they can go watch later if they're not able to make it.
Understandable. That's awesome though.
Thank you. Let's see if I can figure out how. All right, there we go. You might be able to turn on your video now. Not sure.
Let me try. Start video. Nah, it ain't working. Oh,
Okay.
oh well.
Yeah. This is this whole week we've been using the Zoom conference thing because of the extra features.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit more confusing.
No, I got you. I was on a Zoom meeting yesterday. I was watching a lecture on statistics from a Harvard professor, and it was very interesting because there were some people that were not meant to be there that were trolling
Yeah.
that you've heard on Zoom, and it's very weird to say the
Yeah.
least.
I accidentally dropped in on someone's Zoom meeting because they forgot to turn the waiting room on, and they were sending out the it was one of my mentors, and he was sending out the same Zoom link to everybody.
Yeah.
So, but at different times. So I joined in, and then all of a sudden, the person that he's mentoring and talking to just looks super confused and wondering where is this person from?
Yeah.
So that was interesting. Hello, Derek.
Hey, how's it going? How you doing? I don't think we actually
Good.
met. We just met over email, but good to meet you
Yeah.
or see your face finally.
Yeah, it's nice to meet both of you. So I guess a little bit, what time is it? 12? We'll give everybody a little bit more time to join on. Oh, what did I just do? But I was wondering, could you tell me a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so I'm a software entrepreneur. I guess that's what I usually call myself. In the Bryan College Station area, graduated from Texas A&M, class of 2014. Do contract work here and there currently. Just building web apps and applications and things people need. and just putting together different solutions.
Cool.
Been involved in the entrepreneur community here for, I don't know, 7 years or so. And then also volunteered at a couple 3-day startups over the past couple of years when the opportunity arises. So that's...
I really love the, I haven't gone to a 3-day startup, but I have done a startup weekend. So that was kind of where I got my start out in entrepreneurship. So I was doing an internship my freshman year of high school. Well, before my freshman year of high school at this place called Flipmass down in San Antonio. And they recommended that I go to the startup weekend, and that's where I joined FloatMe, which was my first startup. And I just left there back in March to focus on my second startup, which is Lecturely, which is super
Awesome.
fun. Yeah. And it was definitely pretty interesting being at Flipmass because they were all like, they used the latest technology for everything. Like, I never saw a single one of them walk unless all of their hoverboards and like longboards were broken. Like, Geekdom just posted a picture, like a flashback, and all of them were on a hoverboard or a longboard.
Yeah.
And that's how they got around everywhere. Like, that was their commute to work as well. Like, they lived in downtown and commuted on their hoverboard or longboard.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I'm sorry for all the noise. We're actually at a hotel right now because I'm sorry I didn't get back to all of you as quick as I'd like to. We had the power out go. The power went out the other day as with our internet. So it's just been crazy because that was a whole day I was going to be like, all right, I'm preparing for this event. It's going to be good. And then at like 2 p.m. we had to hide in the basement, and then power went out, and as with electricity. I mean, power and internet. So,
gotta love it, right?
Yeah, I was like, seriously, why today?
Out of all the days, right?
Yeah. They finally restored power, but the internet is still not up. So it's been a few days.
Hotspot?
No, I've just been at a hotel using the Wi-Fi. So we've been staying here because we're currently in Illinois with family.
Mm-hmm.
So it's also in the middle of nowhere, so I have no cell services as well. So I had absolutely no way to do anything. All right. Cool. I guess we'll give like 2 more minutes. All right.
Okay. Can we turn our video on?
Tried that. We had some issues.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Does it still not allow y'all to?
Yeah, the host has stopped it. Yep.
I'll try and figure this out before we start. Ah, there we go. I found the setting. You should be able to start video now.
Oh, there we go.
Huh.
There you go.
Lounging in the backyard.
So kind of what we wanted to do today was a Q&A. So just kind of pull from y'all's experience as entrepreneurs and as students, because I know that y'all got your start out in A&M or before with Shelly and entrepreneurship. So I was wondering, to start us off, if you could tell us about your background, what you're involved in, what you do, and what you're working on.
Who wants to start?
Yeah.
Do you want me to go again or?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can go.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, my name's Derek Bergman. I'm a software consultant, software entrepreneur here in the Bryan College Station area. Graduated class of 2014. Yeah, got started with entrepreneurship my sophomore year. We were building a visitors application here called the Visit app at A&M, and ran with that for a couple of years until we graduated from A&M. Me and my business partner at the time. After that was on and off with entrepreneurship. I got a full-time job, got sick of that, then went back to go being my own boss for a little bit. And then most recently, we were working on a app that facilitates face-to-face conversations. So if you and somebody else were in a, say a coffee shop and you didn't know anyone, but you're too shy to, go and ask, if someone wants a conversation, everyone has their AirPods in or whatnot. You can on the app say like, hey, I want to have a conversation. If anyone else wanted to, they could see you on the map and then just ping you and you guys could just start talking. So it kind of breaks those barriers to interaction down. COVID kind of, put that on hold. So currently we're on hold with that. And Adam and I are working on a consulting company right now. So helping other startups and local businesses around here get their website up, fixed and ready to go, help them drive traffic. So, oh, and I'm from San Antonio originally too. So.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, thank you for that. And either, sorry.
Yes, I can follow up on that, considering he's my co-founder. So I got my start. Wanted to start Happier. It was called Happier, and I wanted to start it in college. So that's whenever me and Derek came in contact and figured that we could build it together. And Derek is more of the very logical, down to earth guy, and I'm more of the let's do something crazy. And it was kind of that yin and yang, and it really matched out really well. But obviously, COVID brought that to a grinding halt because face-to-face interaction spreads the virus. Who knew? And then so we started this LLC called Happier Creative, and kind of doing that on the side right now. And I'm looking to break into the venture capital world. So that's kind of like what I've been primarily focusing all my energy on in the past month is breaking into venture capital and doing market analysis on companies and blogging about that. So that's where I'm currently at right now. I'm in Austin, Texas, but I'm originally from Temple, Texas, if y'all know where that is.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. My name is JB Bergdorf. I've been in retail and hotel management for the past decade. Class of 09, lived here ever since 07. I got into entrepreneurship about 2015 with Startup Aggieland, where I mentored. Lynx Toys was one of the better successes. I was actually get them into a retail setting up here at the local mall before they signed with Swimways, a lease agreement. After that, I've just been kind of doing consulting and retail still. I'm finishing up my master's actually next week is when I complete the degree. And I've really gotten big into esports, hence the headphones, these big gaming headphones.
Yeah.
Because the industry is just blowing up, and currently I'm helping in-game marketing out of Houston that's doing esports. So that's kind of like the next big thing for me.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I guess my next question would be, what would you recommend to high school students or students in general that are starting out a business? Like, what would you envision the first step being?
Do your research. And I mean, do your research, because it's the most important thing for me, at least. is to know what you're getting into. Because a lot of these startups, they start up quick thinking, oh man, I got a great idea. Don't do any research and then just fall off the map. And then some of them that do the research and actually start learning how their business is going to react in this type of setting will be more successful or likely to be more successful.
Mhm. I think I can, I think I would take the position of saying you should look into anything that you're interested in and just dive headfirst, and don't start a business. Don't start out with the thought of I'm going to build a company around this, but find things that interest you, and just do them for fun, and figure out like what makes you tick and what you really come to love. Because in the startup world, if you don't like love the idea that you're working on, whenever it's down, it's going to be very down, and you're not going to want to hold on to that company because you're not excited about what you're building. So I think that for high schoolers especially, start out with something that you just want to play around with. Like it could be anything from, you know, programming to marketing to, you know, human psychology, which I find very interesting. And you can apply that to so many areas. It doesn't have to be business specific. So transferable skills are very useful. So I would start there.
Yeah, I really enjoyed a book called The Lean Startup, because what it tells you in there is basically all your assumptions that you make about anything. You need to go and validate them, because you aren't always right. In fact, a lot of the time, your perspective gives you like an inherent bias on what people might like, or and once you have, I don't know, it depends on what you're building or what you're selling. But it's always good to be aware of that, because once you put it in somebody's hands, they might be doing something completely different than you didn't expect with it, or you may not even be meeting their needs, or they might have a different need that it fills a role. So I think exploring and doing your research is very interesting, and you should definitely not exclude talking with people, because if you're starting a business per se, your business needs to make money, and you need to convince people to, you know, to buy what you're doing or convince them to use it. So getting in front of who you think your customers are, or just normal people in general, or random people, is really, really beneficial to make sure you're on the right path and you're not wasting time.
Yeah, thank you for that. I definitely agree with research and also passion being pretty big fundamentals in starting out a company. Like with FloatMe, I think we changed about like 3 or 4 times. We had the same core principles, but we changed 3 or 4 times after talking to customers, figuring out the first way we were going to do it was a lot of illegal stuff when dealing with money. So we quickly ditched that idea. But we finally found a place where customers would like it and it was legal. So that was, but that really plays a role into doing the research into if it's more of if it's not illegal, and also customers would like to use it, and also having a passion about it, because it took us 2 years to get to market with that idea, and it takes a lot of dedication, and to have that dedication, you need to have passion. So my next question kind of plays on that is, what's like one of the biggest lessons you've learned being involved with the startup community and starting your own business?
Basically what I've seen from mentoring is what kind of Derek hit on earlier, was not talking to enough people and validating what you're trying to do. They would talk to, like, you know, a small sample size, and maybe it's just more their family and friends because they're not comfortable. They're not comfortable with getting vulnerable with going out there and saying, hey, I need to ask so many people, is this a good idea? Is it a bad idea? What do you say from it? I think that's one of the mistakes I've seen, because Lynx Toys actually was going down that path. Like, they were scared of getting out there and talking to people because they didn't really know what they wanted to do. But yeah, I think just going out there and being vulnerable is what I've seen has been the downfall for some.
Could you repeat your question real quick?
Yeah, so it's what is the greatest lesson that you've learned like from being in the startup community and creating your own startup?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to side with pretty much everyone on this. Like, you do not know anything. You think you know, but you just don't. Like, it's like, there's this wonderful article that I actually published in one of my blog posts, and it's this how Elon Musk thinks, and it's a very long form article, so I recommend everyone going and reading it. But essentially, towards the end of it, you know, we all have these preconceived notions that everyone around us knows something that we don't, and we're like so scared to go out and put ourselves out there. But the conclusion that really exists is that you don't know anything, everybody else doesn't know anything. We're kind of all just here like trying the best we can. And also, there's really nothing you should really fear because of those two conclusions. So that's kind of, I think that's the best thing, is like, you need to have your own hypothesis and then go out and talk to those people, and then you get a little bit more less and less wrong as you go, and then, you know, the company that sells for 500 million was just a little less wrong than you. You know.
So yeah, what they both mentioned was very, very important. I want to add on top of that. So also, in the book I mentioned, Lean Startup, they mention how some people are scared of talking about their idea, that somebody else is going to steal it, and that's something you really shouldn't be that afraid of, because you're gonna, if they're going to steal it, I mean, you should have a head start on them, and know a lot more about it than they do. So just really don't be afraid of talking about what you're working on. Something else that I find really, really funny and interesting is you don't actually need to have a working product to find funding, or to get the idea across and get the message, to get investment, which I find super fascinating as somebody who wants to go and build everything right off the bat, like get a working prototype up. But I've seen a lot of companies that I've worked with, they didn't have anything necessarily working. They just sold a vision or a dream. So if you don't have the technical skills to do or to build these ideas you're thinking about, don't be discouraged. Like, go out and build, or go out and sell your idea, and there's plenty of people who can build it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all of those points, especially the one where I don't know anything. Because when going into creating both startups, I didn't really know anything. And kind of adding on top of that is building out a mentorship like team. So you have mentors that you turn to when you have a question, like, although they don't know everything about your industry or exactly what you're doing, they can still help out and build on top of that idea and help guide you. So my advice would be building out a mentorship team where you have at least 2 or 3 mentors that you have frequent contact with, and can pull from their experience to help guide you on yours.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So on top of that, I would like to ask, do y'all remember the first days of like one of your startups? So creating the first pitch deck, the first event that you went to, and kind of tell us about that story.
Yeah, I can. I would love to start out, because I remember the first pitch deck that I created for Plug before Derek was even on. I did 3-day startup, and I ran with this idea. And like the way 3-day startup worked is, you know, you pitched a 60-second pitch on your idea, and then it got voted on by basically the community to see if those people would want to work on your idea. So I remember you know, fighting with myself whether or not I wanted to go up there and pitch the idea. And then the two girls who were sitting next to me, they were like, you have to go out and do it. So just based off of that decision, I went up and did it, and it ended up being an idea that got selected by the teams. And then the first pitch deck, the original colors of Happier and the original name of Happier was Plug. And the original colors were pink. And they were just, I remember doing the first pitch deck, and a lady like mid pitch who wasn't a panelist like called out, and she was like, I feel like I'm in a strip club looking at this pitch deck. And immediately you just see like this herd mentality effect happen where everyone automatically agreed with her, and the rest of the pitch was just so brutal. It was like, wow, this is so bad. But you know, towards the end of 3-day startup, we changed the colors to blue, and we kept the name, but it eventually turned into Happier, which I guess is a much better name than Plug, because you can take a lot of other you know, names or ideas away from the name Plug. So that's how it was. Very embarrassing, but you learned so much through that process, you know.
You pivoted pretty quick then.
Yep, immediately.
That's great.
And who's next?
I'll let Derek go.
Okay. Shoot, early memories. So that would have been about 8 years ago. Yeah, so on the Visit app, I can't actually remember what triggered us to do it. Oh, okay. So actually, the Visit app that we ended up making for here was version 2 of one that we made for San Antonio, specifically the Riverwalk, because there wasn't really a great visitors application. So we went out, we bought a MacBook, since you needed one to build for iOS, and basically still do today. And then we spent the next several months, like, I don't even know if it was that long, just putting together like building the application. We didn't actually go and seek funding or anything like that. We just had the idea, and then we had some seed money on our own, and then we just went out and started building it. So I remember one weekend we actually went down there and took a bunch of photos with our camera or DSLR, and then put this app together and launched it out there. There wasn't actually like a plan for revenue by that point. I don't think either. We just went out and did it. So I think it's kind of ended up being more of like a passion project at first, just to see that we could, with like, you know, commerce or making money like an afterthought. But eventually, like when we released it here, we sold premium like positions. So if you were wanted to be at the top of the list or whatever, you got to pay for that, and then we'd set you there. So that worked out. But yeah, I mean, just get started.
That's basically what I've seen, just as from the mentor side of it, watching pitches, you know, back in the early days of like Startup Aggieland, these first business pitches, it's like, you know, you see they're nervous, you see that they're just seeking out any kind of, hey, you know, what do you think about this idea? And it's great to see the progression, to see the early pivots, to see the changes right away, going from pink to a different color, changing your name, that sort of thing. You know, Weather General was one of the first ones that I saw, and this guy was very passionate about bringing accurate weather, but the dude just got up there and the pitch was just bad because his slides, his deck were, you know, really wordy. You know, there wasn't much space to be giving. Like my eyes kept on going left and right, just trying to figure out what he's doing. And then you got this big yellow thunderbolt in the background, like right smack dab in the middle with the wording in front of it. And it's just like, stop, you gotta stop. But like he progressively got better because he understood what he actually wanted, what he actually needed. Instead of just having this, you know, mouth vomit of words, he concised everything down and was able to get it to a pretty quick pitch. But
Mhm.
yeah, I've always appreciated the progression because it's nice to see people grow in that area. But yeah, pitches are fun times for everybody.
Absolutely.
I, I I remember the first day for Float Me. It was during a startup weekend, and I still remember going up that first night, pretty much claiming the conference room as ours, and because we were the only team that went up there, pretty much claimed that whole conference room because it was the only room and it had whiteboard across all of the walls. And throughout that event, the whole room was filled up with writing, and also we created a terrible logo, but that's beside the point. And also the idea would change so much as we progressed throughout the event. And also after the event, again, we pivoted like 4 or 5 times so our business wouldn't be illegal. Um, but, and we landed where we were today, where we allowed employees to go into the app, borrow money for free for only you have a fee every month for the app, and then also you have the option to upgrade to an instant float where you can get it instantly. We eventually got there, but it was definitely a journey getting there, and also for that first pitch deck, which I laugh when looking at it, but it's also super interesting to see what that weekend of work came out to.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think also taking or accepting that like your work will never ever be finalized, and like we have this idea of perfectionism, but perfectionism does not exist. And like even I mean, whenever we were like back in March, whenever COVID first hit, like we had some things lined up at South by Southwest to like talk to investors and things of that nature, and we had already started building out our investor update lists. And even with that pitch deck that we were sending out to them could still be improved, tenfold. And if we were to throw in like the first ever pitch deck of Happier, I mean, it is laughable compared to the pitch deck from March, to where we could even be improving it even more. So there's always room for improvement,
Yeah, and there's a quote that I don't know who said it, but I've lived by it for a long time. It's strive for perfection, knowing you'll never be perfect. And I think
Mhm.
it makes you just want to go further and look at your stuff and be like, okay, I could tweak it here to go a little bit better. And then you look at it again, it's like, well, I could do it better. And then as you're talking to people, you kind of see how they react to it. And I think that's just, for me, it's the best quote to live by.
Yeah, exactly.
And adding on to that, like the pitch deck thing, how it progresses over time, we create one every single month, and it looks a lot different than the previous month. So we keep
Mhm.
iterating and improving on that, knowing that perfection is not something that will ever be achieved, but again, striving for it.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm going to start saying now, like anyone who wants to ask a question can post in the Q&A part or on YouTube where we'll have it. And also I'm going to post in the Slack channel for those who can't join the actual conference. But I'm going to open it up for like any questions that people have, but also kind of have a discussion on talking about like where one of the questions that I have is how have you changed throughout like starting your first company and where are you now? I'm guessing, knowing my experience, probably there's no similarities, but where have you changed from your first startup and where you are now?
I think one of the main things that I've realized through, I mean, like, go back to February and you could have asked me and Derek what's going to happen in the next 6 months, and we would have said something entirely different. But I think the positions that we're in now is like, okay, Happier might be, on a pause right now, and I don't know when it'll become effective again. But the network that we gained through building Happier, and the opportunities that came about because of Happier, and the people we had to meet or got to meet, is really the most powerful aspect of going through the startup process and building out your own company. Is like, okay, maybe this one didn't work out this time, but the vast connections that you get just by going through the process, and the willingness that those connections have to you, it's like you can ask for so many favors in the startup ecosystem, and people are so willing to do it because they're all on the same page of understanding what you're going through. It's a really amazing thing. So I think where we're at now is like, the reason for me wanting to break into VC is because I thought that by gaining access to the venture capital community, and by being able to assess market landscapes at a high meta level, would in the future give us a better opportunity to see where problems are in specific industries, and then go out and build a company. So that's really why I wanted to go into VC, is because I think those networks are so powerful. I'm all about networking. I'm the extroverted person out of the group, and I think that is where all the power lies. Is you might be having a wonderful idea, but if you don't know the Bill Gurleys of VC, it becomes much more difficult to raise funding, because you're just not in that network. So I want to make sure that we're in that network whenever the next opportunity rolls around.
Yeah, and I'm also definitely looking forward to when the 6 feet not being able to have networking events and everything comes to an end. Hopefully that's next year, but I'm looking forward to going back to San Antonio and having those networking events, because I'd always love going to that and walking around, meeting new people, and gathering a lot of business cards, and just the event of talking to people from different backgrounds, although they might not be in the same one as you can still pull from their experience, and it's just an amazing thing being able to network.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think networking is great too. I'm definitely not Adam. I'm introverted, but I'm a people person because I've been around people for so long. Rather shy, but at least getting out there and asking questions. And I touched on it earlier, vulnerability. The definition of it is like shame and fear, but it also creates joy and creativity and innovation, putting yourself out there, because you're now in this position of gathering all this information and learning from all these other people, and be like, well, I could take this piece and put it in there, and I could take this piece and put it in there. We're like, well, this that I have, I could take that out. I think networking's, very good. And I think that's where I've grown as a business person, is just learning from everyone, no matter who they are too, because people see things differently all over. So growth is huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on all that, because when I was started, I would let people, I would let my previous co-founder talk and do most talking. And I was comfortable talking one-on-one, but not nearly as much as I am now. So really being able to talk with others is actually a very, very useful skill. And will serve you probably almost just as well, if not better, than your technical skills. I think, it's just invaluable to build your network. And it's even more impressive to people if you can talk about, like, if you can break down very technical details into plain English for people, and communicate that's an invaluable skill in any industry. So being able to talk and being able to network, just invaluable.
Yeah. Adding on the talking part, how many iterations do you go through, like, a month on an elevator pitch? So I know every company has their kind of like practice elevator pitch that kind of is that it just holds close to them. So when they go up to somebody, they know exactly what to say, and that's how they explain their company. do you kind of have that unspoken text of your startup, and also how has that changed like over the years?
Unspoken text? What do you mean by that?
Honestly, I need to reword that question. But so the elevator pitch, how has that changed over the years for you, and how valuable has it been to your company? Like, do you have a script that you've been working off of, or is it something that you've just practiced and it's in your mind, you already know it, and you don't have to write it down anymore?
Well,
Yeah, I think, JV, do you want to go? I have a little funny thing.
no, you can go.
Okay, cool. So let's see. Whenever Derek came on, you know, we spent, how many months did we spend just like literally talking to people, writing down questions that we had, working through processes, building out prototypes through Adobe XD, and putting the prototype in the hands of people, and then trying to succinctly explain what your company does to an average human being is so much more difficult than people realize. Because I mean, the funny thing is like, okay, it was this app that basically encourages you to have a face-to-face conversations with people around you, and you'd be so surprised by how many people get confused by that type of statement. And they want to know how the app works. I have said that statement so many times through my phone that literally autocorrect or auto suggestion knows that statement. So like if somebody asked me what Happier did, I would just be like, it starts out with, it's an app, and then auto suggestion. Like I would just press auto suggestion until it gets to the final statement, like the final sentence. So I've said it so many times that it's ingrained in my head, and it's ingrained in my phone at this point. It's ingrained in the software of my phone. So, and I think that was because everyone understands that. It encourages you to have a face-to-face conversation with people around you. Okay. So how does it do that? Because I want to get someone to say, oh, well, how does that happen? And that then leads me into explaining more how the app works. So yeah, how has it changed? I can't tell you. I need to go back in the old Google Docs and see what the first statement was. I'm sure it was more of a paragraph than a sentence.
Yeah, I remember initially it was much longer, and we spent a good couple of weeks like narrowing it down to something that we both agreed on, even though Adam was the one always presenting it. But yeah, it changed. But we did get it down to a point where we were pretty good, and people understood it. So after a while, it wasn't really changing all that much. So
yeah.
I mean,
you kind of also reach that level of acceptance that you're going to repeat this sentence so many times that it's just going to become so dull to you. And there's this thing, like whenever you're giving a speech, typically you break the speech down and it feels kind of robotic, you know, whenever you first start practicing it. But then you practice it so many times that you can add back the emotion into the speech and everything. The same thing applies to the story that you're telling, or the narrative that you're telling about your company. Is like, you break it down so much that it just becomes robotic in a way that it's just, you know, off the cusp. I know exactly what Happier is doing, but I've said it so many times that I've come to the acceptance that I'm going to repeat it another 1,000 times. So that's okay. And that you can say it different ways, but the same, to see how people react to it. You know, adding a tonal increase to a specific word or something might change the reaction in how someone believes it or thinks of it. So that's kind of how I play around with it, because I've repeated it so many times. Oh my gosh. JV, what do you have to say?
Well, I like that approach. It's like fundamentally your script is going to be at the very beginning, and I'm not a big person on scripts. It's just once you build your script, you build your core, your basic fundamentals of what you want to do and what you want to say. Then, you know, it's that evolution of getting rid of like the script, because you said it so many times in your head, to add that emotion back into it. Where I've seen it's like, you're robotic. You got to say everything on the script. Well, you also have to remember who your audience is, and I think a lot of people forget that. With a power user, you could tell them all the technical things on what you're doing, and they'll understand it. Whether you go to simple high schooler or someone that's just an everyday human being, and you tell them, and it's like, are you speaking in a different language? Could you please break it back down
Right.
to layman terms? And I think it's just a big evolution of, you start out with this core script, and then you just kind of break it and and go to a different level of it, shorten it. And then, like Adam said, you go from like a paragraph to like a sentence to then just a phrase. And then like Nike, it's just, you just do it. So, I mean, it's fun though.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I totally agree with the. We had an evolution of the elevator pitch where it was like changing, and then eventually, it's kind of been the way since for the past like 4 or 5 months, where we know exactly what it is, and we're not changing it because it works and people know. Oh, okay, that's what it is, and that's kind of been the evolution of our elevator pitch. So with these groups about to go up and pitch probably their first pitch deck, what was the experience that you had presenting that first pitch deck? What was running through your head? What were the emotions? What did you think could go wrong, and how did it end up?
I don't know. I think Eminem says it best. His knees weak, arms are heavy. Right. It's like palms are sweating. Dude, I was so nervous the first time that I came back. I think it's good to have a realization that everyone is giving their opinion based on their own experience and what their reality looks like, because ultimately your world is just the experience that you're experiencing, and nobody else can see that. So whenever somebody's giving you constructive feedback, you should realize that they might be saying it from a position of being a power user and understanding the problem entirely, or they might be giving you feedback and they have no understanding of what you're actually trying to build. And that's okay. That's just their experience. So I think understanding that you can take constructive feedback from anyone. I mean, someone who doesn't know anything about your company could say one thing and it like flicks in your head. Oh, I never even realized that, or never even thought of it. But it's good to have those removed opinions. The second thing is like, it's okay to be nervous. Everyone's nervous. And also, you shouldn't sweat the details. As long as you get the overarching message out, it's going to be okay. And then that you can save the details for the Q&A after and understanding it. So that's my feedback.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes when you get in front of like mentors, and mentors ask questions or they say certain things, that that feedback that's given, we're never really attacking. We're just asking because we're curious. Because a lot of them from Startup Aggieland would come back and sit down and be like, "Man, that was brutal. Like the mentors really went after me." And it's like, no, we actually didn't. We were just trying to understand what you were doing, because then now we could catch you and say, "Hey, maybe you should look at it this way." But yeah, before any kind of like pitch or any kind of saying, it's like, yeah, you're nervous as all get out. But I feel like you get into that rhythm where you take that deep breath, you get up there, and then you start talking, and then everything just kind of goes away, because yeah, you can't sweat the details. There's going to be flaws in it. You just have to be receptive to the feedback.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of one of the 3DS I was at. I walked into their room and their team, and one of them gave me the pitch, and I was trying to make heads or tails of exactly what they were talking about, because they threw out like a lot of words, and I sat there with them for like a good 15-20 minutes just trying to go back and forth. It ended up helping them quite a bit, because I think their idea was kind of just all over the place. So every time they would talk about it, they would always focus on a different part. And as Jay said, you know, we're not picking on you. We're there to really help you. So if you get a lot of feedback on your pitch or people are confused, that's an indicator that you need to potentially change your pitch or figure out why they were confused, and take that opportunity to speak with them, if they'll give you the opportunity to answer you. So
Yeah. And if I can add to that, I think whenever you have your first startup idea and your first experience with it, you tend to tag like your self-worth and your ego with the idea. So whenever people are giving you feedback, you kind of take it personally. But I mean, there's this line in investing, and it's like a good investor, you know, gets excited whenever he you know, has a good return, and he feels bad whenever he loses money. But a great investor feels absolutely nothing whenever he makes money and when he loses money. It's all calculated. And I think the same can be applied to, you know, assessing your startup. Is nobody's attacking you personally. They're just trying to understand your idea, and they're trying to help you from as little as a non-biased standpoint as possible. And you should take the exact same standpoint, is try and be as unbiased as possible. And it's difficult. It's very difficult.
I remember, that reminds me, there was another pitch that I listened to recently. Before I lose what I was going to say, they kept like explaining the pitch back, and then they said, well, you don't get it. And what I told them was, well, at some point you're going to have to market this to people, and they're also not going to get it. So if you brushing me off as a single person, which is fine. No. But you can think about it in terms of like marketing costs later. Like if what you're saying is confusing and it's not coming across, it's not going to be any easier when you try and scale it up and explain it to a bunch of like through physical media. So that's another way to think about it, is at some point you're gonna have to market it. And so if your elevator pitch, which is already short, doesn't get across, well, think of like trying to market it in like a single message and like a billboard or something. I mean, it just gets more difficult. So keep that in mind too when you're pitching.
Right.
And Adam, when you started that song, I knew exactly what you were talking about. So with how you felt going into the pitch, I definitely could agree with you, and those lyrics definitely popped into my head when we were about to pitch. Every single time we were about to pitch, it wasn't even the first time. It doesn't go away, even if you rehearsed it 1,000 times. Which we did a pre-accelerator program last year for the Geekdom pre-accelerator, and that time I wasn't the one pitching, but even I could feel how much my CEO's palms were sweating when he was about to go on stage and present what we have worked on. So yeah, I definitely agree. And
yeah, but the song is about seizing the moment, and that's what pitching is all about too. It's about, you know, taking this opportunity and making the most out of it. So to loop back around, the song is about being a badass.
The song's about pitching a pitch deck, is what it really is.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't know he was writing about that, but he was.
Awesome. Yeah. So thank you so much for getting on the call with us today. And it's all the advice that you've given. It really has helped. And I'm sure it has helped everyone that's participating in the program. And again, thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I guess this will conclude the call, checking to see if there's any other questions, and it looks like there's not. So Thank you so much. I'm going to conclude the